Hello, so many fandoms in Orville Nation. Welcome everybody to Katie's channel. Thank you, Katie,
everyone.
for hosting us.
Oh, thank you for helping me out with all of this YouTube stuff. It's surprisingly difficult.
And hello, DJ.
Hello, PJ.
The birthday boy.
Surprisingly difficult. And hello, DJ.
There we go. I think we have a bit of echo. Do you by any chance have any headphones, DJ?
No.
No worries. Then would you just mind turning down your sound just a wee bit? We're picking up the sonic waves on the computer.
It's fixed.
Okay.
All fixed.
So I just wanted to welcome everybody to one of our partners, one of our sister partner channels, So Many Fandoms. It's an amazing channel that Katie has already been doing amazing stuff on, but she's going to be doing live streaming now. And I want to thank DJ too for throwing out this initial challenge to make this all possible. And
yes.
I want everybody. I'm going to be putting up DJ's channel up as well. So if anybody is not subbed to DJ Odyssey, please do. And I'm going to be plugging that meanwhile while the debate gets off. And I just wanted to welcome everybody to So Many Fandoms. It's going to be a great channel. Everybody, please sub. Katie's going to be doing a lot of live streaming. And if you don't know who Katie is, she is the Starfleet meteorologist, the Planetary Union meteorologist. She is the meteorologist of our whole greater fandom community. So do you want to say a few things about what content you have on your channel, Katie?
Absolutely, yeah. So this is So Many Fandoms. It kind of started as just a little side project a while ago, and it was a place for me to upload my fandom forecasts. And since, I have meteorologist in the name, I am a meteorologist, and I make forecasts for different fandoms like Star Trek. I'm working on an Orville one. I'm working on a Good Omens one, everything across the board. And I also throw in the occasional video edit if I have all the free time in the world. But yeah, this is just a nerdy channel to enjoy all of the fandoms, literally all of them.
Wow, awesome. DJ, do you want to tell us about the content on DJ Odyssey?
Well, let's see. The content is extremely weird. We do live streams, but then you'll see the T-Rex videos. You'll see the unicorn bunny videos. You'll see it all from the old odd one.
Well, the DJ Odyssey community is a wonderful community, and the DJ's streams are always a lot of fun, which is the most important thing. We have a lot of fun with on DJ's channel.
Oh, I just have to point out one thing.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is down in the chat right now, Dr. Alex. He's an even bigger Whovian than me, and he does his own stories on his channel to where you can sit and hear all kinds of other Who stories.
Oh, cool.
Wow. Cool. Excellent. Wow. Okay, so Katie, I will step out and you have a great stream. I'll just be in the backstage.
Awesome. Thanks so much, PJ.
Good luck.
All right, guys. Thanks. We'll see how this goes because I am at the controls of the TARDIS at the moment. So we're going to introduce our wonderful panelists. We have 7 people, minus PJ, who's also the 8th one. He's pulling on a Rory vibe, but he's not quite the biggest Whovian. So we're just going to bring in those diehard fans. We've got, starting with Troy, we're going to add him in. There we go. And I see we have some competing cosplays.
Yeah, and since we have that, I'm going to switch to...
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I almost went that route. I just didn't want to be portrayed as the villain today, which I probably will be anyway.
I'll be the villain, trust me.
Now, trot yourself, and also, who's your favorite doctor, if we can't tell from your cosplay?
It depends on the day. It really depends on the day. Fourth Doctor was my first. Not sure if he's my favorite. I love Tennant. I have a special place in my heart for Hartnell. We share a birthday, January 8th. So,
hey, cool.
Yeah, it depends on which episode I'm watching.
Yeah, very good answer. I love it. Let's see. Let's add on some more people. Next up, we have Brian. Let's welcome Brian to the stream.
He's
also
my current
another
favorite.
cosplayer. Yeah.
Hello.
I'm loving the TARDIS behind you, by the way.
Thank you.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and who your favorite Doctor is, if we can't guess already.
Sure. Well, I am a podcaster for Kasterberus.co.uk, all about a little TV show probably no one's ever heard of before called Doctor Who. Basically, I've done a lot of fan films in the world of Doctor Who as well with one of our other guests. I won't mention his name. He'll talk about himself in a minute. But basically, yeah, I've been doing that. I've been doing the podcast for maybe 10 years. Worked on the website since 2004 or so. Been a fan ever since I was like 10. 9, whatever. Favorite Doctor? You could probably guess. That's right. It's Tom Baker. So no, it is. I grew up with Tom Baker. I love Tom Baker. He's just the man. But like David Tennant and I would say Paul McGann are like right there with him. Those are the trio for me. Yeah.
That is a solid lineup right there. Speaking of solid lineup, let's add to ours. I'm loving these transitions, right? So smooth. Next, we're going to add in Eric. Welcome, Eric, to the stream. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm actually live in the Torchwood Hub right now. So, I don't have the TARDIS because Brian has the TARDIS. We were supposed to bring the TARDIS back. But, I'm Eric Moran. I've been a Doctor Who fan since I was 4 years old. My Doctor Who that I grew up on, who was at that time my favorite, was Tom Baker. But the grown-up version of me basically is an avid fan of David Tennant's Doctor. The 10th Doctor, goes without saying, is the be-all to end-all of all Doctors. He's the embodiment of what Doctor Who is all about. For myself, I was just on the show on Orville Nation. We just promoted our new fan film, Planetary Step, which has been picking up a lot of positive vibes from the Orville community, from the production staff of the Orville. But I've also done fan films alongside with Brian Terranova, who's also one of the writers for Planetary Step. He also co-created Torchwood Doctor Who Legacy. And it's like right now we did 4 episodes. It got raved by BBC America as a continuation of Torchwood. And so we've been received by fandoms in the Doctor Who community real well. People want to see the continuation of our series. So, we've been talking about maybe possibly doing something, but we're both avid fans. Brian is an amazing writer when it comes to this. As you saw his new Doctor Who Isolation, if you haven't seen it, check it out on YouTube. It's amazing. Again, such great talent. I get a chance to work with Brian and stuff. And who better to be on this program with Brian and all you guys in celebration of Doctor Who.
Absolutely. All right. And I must apologize. My stream is getting a little choppy. I'm hoping that maybe the cloud cover will decrease. I'm going to send out a little bit of weather magic. So if I pop out, DJ, take the con. But next, we're going to welcome Jeff to the stream. Welcome, Jeff.
Well, thank you, Katie. It's good to be here. I've been a Doctor Who fan since 1982. We had Tom Baker playing on the local PBS station here in Cleveland back then, and a big fan. I think the first story I saw was the Android Invasion with Tom Baker, and great story. And I was an impressionable 11-year-old at the time, and I was looking for something to watch on TV at the time, and it was 6 o'clock in the evening, and all the stations were playing the news. I was not interested in the news at that time, and so I ran across the PBS station, and they had this strange man with a long scarf on and running around having adventures, and it was just a lot of fun. And so Tom Baker, he was my first Doctor, and I loved it. And then I saw Peter Davison. They played his stories, and then they went back to John Pertwee. But I got to say, my favorite Doctor from the classic era, and this is going to be an unpopular choice, Sylvester McCoy. I love Sylvester McCoy. I love how he went dark, being that chess master of a character. I just love that. From the New Who, probably it depends on the day. I love Eccleston. I love David Tennant. I love Matt Smith. If I pan down my camera a little bit, you can see I have Matt Smith on there. Bow ties are cool. And And Capaldi's great too, and I'm enjoying Jodie Whittaker as well. A little bit of a rough start there in Series 11, but Series 12 I've really liked a lot. So it's getting better, and looking forward to the Christmas Story. Hopefully we get it this year, and Series 13 maybe next year.
And you know what's great about Doctor Who is that you really can't go wrong whatever doctor you choose. And now I want to add in our last panelist, which means one of us must go backstage. Troy, I'm sorry, you're just the first one on the list. We're going to rotate you guys back, and you'll come back in just a sec. But now we're going to introduce Peggy, who is also a fan of the Modern Who.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. I'm Peggy. I've been watching since Eccleston. Eccleston's my doctor. And I've been, I haven't missed an episode since Rose. I think I told Katie that. So I am happy to help. I have watched a few episodes of the original. So I am aware of who most of them are. I think I even attempted to watch the one from the 80s when we had the One Doctor episode. So hopefully I can keep up with you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, I think what's going to be great about this is with the whole stream, we're going to start out easy. We're just going to be talking about some of our favorite episodes and what makes good Who. And then, of course, those of you who are Whovians, you will see Dr. River Song pop up on the screen with spoilers. We will be talking about the latest season and some of the more controversial things that are happening. And at that point, yes, River will be popping up on the screen. So if you haven't seen the latest Who, don't worry. We won't be talking about it too much until we get to then. But first, for all of us here, and I just want to welcome everyone in the chat. You guys are fantastic for coming over here. I love all you guys showing the support. This is going to be great. Let's start out with the basic thing that we need to talk about for this stream, which is what makes a good Doctor Who episode. And I think the best way to talk about that is listing some of the best Doctor Who episodes in our opinions. So I think I'll go down the line, starting with DJ. What do you think are one or two of the best Who episodes, if you can narrow it down, and why?
Okay, this one will probably not be on anyone's radar, but I think the mini episode of Paul McGann's during the 50th anniversary.
I like that. That's a solid choice.
Yeah, it is.
Now, for those who have not seen it, can you explain, without spoilers, if possible, a little bit of what it's about, what the story's about?
Well, it happens during the Time Wars. The Doctor meets someone. I'm trying not to do spoilers, but it's hard because it's such a short episode, because it's only like 5 minutes or so, but you actually get to see him regenerate, which he didn't get because all he ever had was the TV movie. And it's a shame because I felt like he could have been right up there as one of the top doctors, especially if you go out kind of off the canon and you listen to his audio dramas. He's really great in those. And I just wish they would give him again a season or two run, even if it was just to go back and do stuff during the Time War.
That would be incredible.
Does he actually... Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
DJ, I don't know if you want to answer Berto Parade 5's question in the text chat. He asked, what's the Time Wars?
Basically, the Time Lord. How to explain this? It's the big battle through time and space between the Daleks and the Time Lords.
It's the battle to end all battles, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's
like their World War I or II.
I think it's both combined.
Yeah, it's like a combination of World War I and II combined for the Daleks and the Time Lords.
Well, it's technically the second Time War. There was one before that was smaller. But this one just encompassed everybody. And everybody was involved in, well, I'm not going to spoil how that ended.
I think it's still going, isn't it, in some part of the universe?
Spoilers.
No, there's a Time War, so...
Next, we're going to move on to Brian, DJ, if that's okay. And then, DJ, I'm going to switch you out for Troy real quick. if that's okay. We're going to do a bit of a juggling act.
I'm just glad you didn't read what PJ was writing in the private chat.
What did PJ put?
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Oh, we'll do it at the end.
Don't do it.
Oh, we're doing it at the end.
Don't
We
do
have
it.
a secret plan. It's not so secret. But yes, so we're going to swap you out for Troy. We'll welcome you back in just a little bit. All right, so we'll add in Troy and we'll move on to Brian in the meantime. What are some of your favorite, or what do you think are some of the best Doctor Who stories?
I mean, if you want like examples, two quick examples that come to mind, and one of them are obviously like everybody kind of says it, is Genesis of the Daleks with Tom Baker, and you can argue that that's technically the start of the Time War between the Daleks and the Time Lords, given what their goal was in the episode. And for those of you who have not seen it, the Doctor is sent by the Time Lords to subvert the creation of the Daleks. And if you think about that, that's going to make a lot of people unhappy. If you happen to be a Dalek who's already unhappy. What's great about this is that you've got the Time Lords doing something extremely devious. They've looked into the future. They've seen what a horrible reality it could be with having the Daleks in this universe. And they finally decide we have to step in, which is what Doctor Who is. The Doctor not wanting to sit there on his backside, just watching time happen. He left Gallifrey, she left Gallifrey because they were like, hey, I want to explore, I want to have fun, I want to go do this, I want to intervene, we kind of have to, somebody has to. And now the Time Lords are kind of like, no, maybe you're right. And it works so well. It's such a beautiful story. It's got my two favorite companions, Sarah Jane Smith and Harry Sullivan. And it's just the dynamic that they have, the dynamic that Davros brings to everything within this story. It's just beautiful. It's not an alien invasion. The way that I actually typically think is a great Doctor Who story. The invader is the Doctor. And that's incredible when you think about it that way.
And if you've been a current fan will kind of go, oh, Sarah Jane with the Davros in the episode where they all came together and go, what was that from? So now we actually know the title of that episode. We can all go back and watch.
Exactly. Yeah, good point. And that's the beautiful thing about Doctor Who, whether you started with the classic series or started with the new series, when you delve into the opposite side of things, you're always going to pick up on these little hints. You'll either get them in reverse or get them as they happened in real time. And that's wonderful about this show.
You can be River going backwards throughout the Doctors instead of forwards.
Oh,
exactly. There's no wrong way to do it. Yeah. When I first started, I was watching Doctor Who on PBS. And the only way that you could watch it was out of order because you just caught whatever episodes were on, and then you had to buy VHS and so on.
That's still the way they do it on PBS.
Difficult.
It's still out of order.
Yeah. But I would also cite as like another good example, I would say The Girl in the Fireplace.
I love
and
that.
The reason for that is it's such an emotional story, and I think that's important. I think it's very important to get to the heart of the character.
It's such a tight story. It's such a tight story. It's so well written that you don't even have to watch any other Doctor Who to not understand that.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a few episodes like that. There's maybe one or two you could possibly mention and go, oh. The episode with Sarah Jane and David Tennant, the first one with the bats. That's a fun, tight episode. And you get a great dynamic of who the Doctor is just in that episode alone. So
absolutely
awesome. All right, well, if it's okay with you, Brian, I think I figured out a system on how to rotate us around. So once you speak, you'll go backstage and then we'll just kind of do like a weird circle chain thing. We'll see how that one goes. But yes, so next up we're going to talk with Eric. Eric, tell us a little bit about what your favorite episodes are.
Well, I have two that stands out. One is The Forest of the Dead, where the Doctor meets, spoilers, River for the first time. And it had such an impact because I remember the first time seeing it, I had so many questions, and it was and she put on such a performance where it was just like, okay, who is this River Song? I mean, you didn't figure it out until way later, until the Matt Smith era, and then a little bit going into but it was just the fact that it just really pulled at the emotional strings. And of course, The End of Time Part 2, Tennant's last run. And again, as far as his his arc, and again, I love how they brought all the rest of Team TARDIS during all his companions towards the end, and he was saying goodbye in his own way and everything else. And those episodes always, it's so many Doctor Who episodes to choose from. But the ones that hit me on an emotional level where I'm just kind of like, wow, if I'm going to write, I want to write like, Russell did when he did that episode, or Peter.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing is just the writing is what makes such a good Doctor Who. To me, and I was asked this earlier, I think DJ asked me, or it was someone who asked me earlier, what do I feel about the whole, as far as Doctor Who, what do I feel about? And my thing is, I don't have a problem with any type of Doctor Who, any kind of Doctor Who, as long as you're telling me a good sci-fi story that takes place in the Doctor Who realm. Tell me a good story. I don't care about political agendas or anything like that. I just want to know and see a good Doctor Who story that I can talk about, think about, talk about, trying to figure out what did that all mean and all. But again, where it just tells good storytelling. And I think we need to make sure we stay back on track with that when you're telling these good stories. But the David Tennant era, to me, was one of my favorite stories come from the David Tennant era. Not saying that the other stories aren't good, but that left an impact on me on a personal note was the David Tennant Doctor. And Matt Smith, of course, his Doctor Who art, of course, there was a lot of episodes that had a good impact on me, but Tennant's Doctor just, I guess because I'm older, so I'm where I was a kid when I was watching Tom Baker's era, and like the guys were saying on PBS, and I would tune in on a Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, just to watch Tom Baker, and I always thought he was like really awesome and crazy and all. But as a kid, you didn't understand all the complexities that all the things he was going through. When you get older, Tennant, to me, that Doctor was the Doctor I can identify the best with, and it was just so much emotion, and he was, he had one side, he had a lot of different layers to him, where, he had a serious side, but he had a happy-go-lucky side. He had all these different sides, layers of him that makes him stand out from all the other Doctors because, with the Time War and everything that happened.
He was a love doctor.
Right, and he was the Doctor that always had regret, like his regret. And that, to me, in certain aspects, without giving away too much, but again, to me, I can identify with the Tennant Doctor more than any other Doctor. Not saying that the other ones weren't good, but that's the one that like I said, that stands out with me.
Awesome. All right. So next, we're going to go over to Jeff, and we're going to cycle in here and see how the system is. The system working well for all y'all? You think it's a good way to do it? Okay. Like I said, it's my first stream. I learned from the best.
You're doing
great, Katie.
Well.
I learned from PJ, so all thanks go to him. So we'll cycle you out and go over to Jeff.
Well, you got to go all the way back to the very first story, An Unearthly Child, episode 1. That makes a great Doctor Who story. It has mystery. You have this man, you don't know who he is. He has a strange device that hums at the outside. You think it's alive. Ian says that it's alive. And they go inside. It's bigger on the inside, and you just don't know what's going on. It takes off and takes you to someplace else, sometime else. And that exemplifies Doctor Who. You don't know who the Doctor is. You don't know where he's from, although we later on do figure out where he's from, she's from. And that story keeps evolving, as we'll probably talk about later. But that's Doctor Who. It's about the mystery. It's about the suspense, the adventure of it all. And you have great companions in that story with Ian and Barbara coming on. And you start to know them. And they all start to work together a couple stories later after they get over the fact that basically the Doctor kidnapped Ian and Barbara in that first story. But that's where you start.
That to all of them?
Yeah, you can kind of say that. Yeah.
I mean, there are some that joined automatically, like let's go, but he kind of kidnaps most of them. Like, hey, let's go. Let's
Come
get in the
on.
box. Get in the box. We gotta go. We gotta run.
Did I mention it travels in time?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
that's a great story. And if you go into New Who, you got to go to Midnight.
Oh.
Midnight is kind of the opposite. Oh, I hear some groans there.
No, that was a good ooh. I like that was a
Oh,
good ooh.
okay.
That was a good ooh.
That was
I'm
an
sorry.
itchy
I
ooh.
misinterpreted.
It's a ooh.
In
Sorry.
that story, you have almost the opposite, where the Doctor is by himself. He's isolated, and it felt very much like a Twilight Zone episode, where everybody was turning against him, and something very, very odd was going on with another character in the story, and they're trying to figure out why she's acting that way, and it's just a lot of mystery and the unknown. The unknown is what is hard to figure out in that story, and figure out why what's happening is happening. So I love that story, and I'll just add one more in there, and it's another story where the Doctor is by himself, and that's Capaldi's episode, Heaven Sent. Terrific episode. Capaldi just carries that story so well, and you see what's going on in his mind, and he's in the scenes there where he's talking to Clara, or what he is perceiving as Clara in his mind inside the TARDIS, as he's trying to figure out what's going on in the castle and how he's going to get out of that predicament. It's just a beautiful story, well told, well directed, well produced, just exemplifies again Doctor Who. And Doctor Who can be so many different things. It can tell a comedic story, it can tell an adventure, it can tell a scary story or horror. It can be just about anything. So you can't nail it down in just one or two or three stories. It's just a grand story in itself that can be just about anything. So that's what I like about Doctor Who.
That's a really good point. It can do anything. They do horror, they do comedy, all wrapped into one so brilliantly. I think that's one of the key things with Doctor Who and storytelling in Doctor Who is you have to be able to figure out, well, which direction do we want to go this week, murder or fun? Like, I feel like you can go anything.
Each Doctor is different. Each Doctor has a little bit different characteristics about him or her, but you have the same core character. And that's what makes it fun. It's different all the time. Even the TARDIS, the most constant thing in the show, changes. We see the appearance changes a little bit on the outside. The interior changes all the time. So it's just a terrific element. Constant change. That's the constant, is change.
Oh, I love it. And on that fantastic note, we're going to switch over to Peggy. So
more change.
Oh, no, wait. I clicked on the wrong person. I'm sorry, DJ. There we go. Okay, Peggy, go for it.
Okay. So my doctor is Eccleston, and I will have to say Rose is where you really do get that doctor for the new generation. His speech that he gives about being able to feel the earth and the universe and all of that. At the end of that speech, I turned to my family and went, we're owning this series. I had never watched any other Doctor Who. I had never seen an episode. Like I said, I lived overseas, so I didn't catch it on PBS with you guys. So that episode and that speech, the end of that, it was like, I'm owning this. And my family was like, no, you can't base it off of the first episode. And I was like, okay. Second episode, I'm owning this series. No. Yeah, we'll wait. Third episode. Can I own the series now? And they all finally, fine, okay. With David, when the change was made, you end up loving David. But it took me 3 episodes, Girl in the Fireplace, to finally go, okay, we're owning this series. So there is that. That's my backstory. So Rose is one of those, you get run, you get let's go, just off the and the companions, to me, I think, are our gateway into the Doctor. The Doctor is who he surrounds or she surrounds herself with. So if you don't like the companion, I think you don't like the Doctor. It's kind of one of those I know people who don't like Martha, or they didn't like Donna, or they didn't like, and then it was kind of like, oh, I didn't like that season with her or them. For me,
if there's someone who says I don't like Rose, I will find you. By the way,
yeah, exactly. But I think that's kind of where Jodie is having her problems, is that I unfortunately do not connect with her companions at all. I think if maybe one or two we had them, but if we have, they're not doing it for me. So I think that's where a lot of people are having the problem with Jodie. If Jodie had Captain Jack, which apparently her next Doctor does, spoiler, sorry.
River
just sorry. We kind of go, oh, she's a worthy Doctor. But I think that's where we kind of have that issue. But Rose for me is one of my favorite episodes, and the other one I think if I was going to name one would probably be the Doctor's wife, as the TARDIS and Matt go at it. That's a great, I mean, that's his lifelong partner. That is who, and one of my favorite lines is that she gives him, I didn't always send you to where you wanted to go. I sent you where you needed to go. So to me, that's great writing right there.
What's wonderful about that too is that that's a long-held fan theory.
Yep.
Yes, and I think it's interesting too. Spoilers. I can't say it. That the Doctor always comes back to that TARDIS. Can I just say that and try not to spoil it? She always comes back to that TARDIS. And we do get to see a change on I think the TARDIS likes the police box. I think she thinks that that's a great shell, and that's why she uses it. And then she's like, you know what? I'm not going to change my outside. I'm going to change my inside. So, and that's the other thing. The Doctor's always changing. This is a 2,000+ year old sentient being, and now, okay, we've got an additional time on top of that. But this is something that somebody that's grown up at least with 12 different individuals inside of this box. So that I think the TARDIS actually outlives the Doctor in a lot of things. Yeah, or the oldest companion other than the Master. But all right, I'll let somebody else speak.
Awesome. Well, has everyone had a chance to talk about your favorite episodes?
Not yet.
Not yet. Troy's up.
Not yet?
Yep.
Troy's next.
Troy, gotcha. Okay. Sorry, Troy.
That's okay.
All right. Let's see.
I was keeping Troy.
There's the button.
No,
all right, go for it, Troy.
I appreciate the opportunity to think about it, because I mean, I've got, many years of Doctor Who to think about to choose a favorite. Can I really choose a favorite? I'm not sure. When somebody asks me, hey, I've heard a lot about this Doctor Who, where do I start? I usually point them to Blink. I think that's a great jumping on point. You don't need to know anything in advance. It's a great starting point. It gets you hooked. And then we can talk about maybe going back to Hartnell, or maybe starting with Rose or whatever. However, personal favorite, I think it's The End of Time Part 2. And I think that comes down to who my favorite companion is, and it's Wilf. My favorite episodes are the ones that make me cry. I have no problem admitting that I cry. I ugly cry. My wife will tell you. She'll be like, "Yo, we're not watching this anymore." No. That's what I love. And that kind of character development, that kind of gravitas, I don't see it enough. And when you do see it, it raises up the story. It raises you up, and it makes you really, really care about the characters. Now, there's been other episodes too. I mean, Parting of Ways. There was what was it? School Reunion. Was that it? With Sarah Jane. Oh,
yeah.
When he says, "My Sarah Jane," I burst into tears. I just burst into tears. I just did. Just like I did when I found out that Liz passed away. I don't do that with celebrities I've never met before, but with her, I did.
And actually, that's a really good. I wanted to mention something. Many of you probably know this on Twitter. There's been a Doctor Who lockdown sort of trending topic group, and you rewatch Doctor Who episodes, one a week typically, and like the stars, the writers, the directors, the producers, everyone, it comes onto Twitter and actually live tweets about it. They even got David Tennant and Catherine Tate to join Twitter for a day.
I'm not surprised.
Brilliant. Oh yeah, no, but if you guys haven't been following that, follow that, because they wrote a farewell Sarah Jane, and it's on YouTube. Watch it after the stream and it's a complete goodbye to Sarah Jane, and you will weep, absolutely weep.
Wow. Okay.
And it brings back a lot of. Has anyone not seen it?
I haven't.
Oh, I feel so sorry for you.
I have something to look forward to, I guess.
Oh, yes. They bring back a lot of the Doctor Who family is getting involved with this, and that's all I'm going to say.
Good. It's about time.
Oh, it's brilliant. But yes, I'll make sure I'll post it later if you guys want to start following that. It's just Doctor Who Lockdown on YouTube, I'm pretty sure, and they have some really good stuff. But yes, so now everyone has had a chance, right? I'm not missing anyone. Brilliant. Okay. So I think for the people in the comment section, also, Peggy, I will bring you back in because you mentioned something about Blink. Oh, gosh. Sorry, Eric. You're just the first one who popped up. I'm just going to click you off. There we go. Okay, Peggy, did you want to say what you mentioned in the chat? Let me just add you back in.
I said that I love Blink. It's a good episode, but I have a friend who introduced her niece to Doctor Who by way of Blink and totally turned her off because it was such a scary, crappy, scared the pants crap out of her kind of episode. Yeah. So I think it really does depend. You want to choose kid-based age. Right. Because she sat there and told me that, and I was like, "No, Rose, girl in the fireplace, something like babies, not for the 10-year-old in Blink. Come on, So that was
showing them Midnight.
Yeah, and I love Midnight, and I want to bring that back because that episode was so well. It's called a box episode because they don't have to change locations or anything, and it was all in one. But the Doctor could go anywhere and make companions. And I think that was one of the most interesting episodes because here's a group of strangers and he's trying to make companions. He's trying to get Colin's character to come to his side. And he's got the smart doctor and the kid the assistant who's being brushed aside by the professor and things like that. And you kind of see that dynamic, the professor and the assistant, and you're like, oh, he used to be like that. That first Doctor was so much like that, where he would brush aside the companions like you're stupid. And he's like, I've learned enough to know that the assistant is just as important as I am. Yeah. So that's what. But that episode where he starts to have to be him, or he's getting himself taken away, was because he couldn't create a companion straight away. Yeah. I think. Sorry. Go ahead.
Love it. Oh no! I love it. Well, I think since everyone's gone, we'll cycle through again, but this time I want to talk about, since we've talked about what makes a good Who, let's talk about, let me just pop River up here, the latest season and some of the latest too, because
I can hear her saying it too. Spoilers.
She is such a nice lady. I actually got to meet her at a convention, and she was so brilliant with my daughter. My daughter went up to ask her a question in the convention room, and she was the next person in line, and they cut her off. They were like, "Oh, I'm sorry, kid, no." And so I took her to go stand in the line to say hi, and she remembered. I mean, my daughter came up and she goes, "You were the next in line and we didn't get to ask your question. And I'm so sorry about that." And so she was like, "What was the question?" And my daughter had drawn or something. She gave it to her. And when my daughter asked the question, she was just like, "That was such a brilliant question. We should have done that question. The last question sucked." So it was kind of really cool that she just took that child and went, "I like you. Let's talk." So.
I'm totally kicking myself because I am a youngin'. I am new to Who. I actually just started with Doctor Who back in November because I went to GalaxyCon and David Tennant was going to be there, and I knew him from Good Omens and DuckTales. and I'd never seen Doctor Who. And Alex was there, and Catherine Tate was there, and I'm just looking at myself in the mirror like, you idiot. You absolute idiot. You should have watched the show before then. So now I have to wait for the next con to go and actually meet them. But I wanted to touch on a comment. Where'd it go? I think it was Lady Q who said, when's your Graham Norton show segment going to come on air? For those of you who've been following me with Orville Nation, I was on the Graham Norton show for the Big Red Chair.
Oh, cool.
I have no idea.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I told one of my storm chasing stories. Graham was unimpressed.
You got flipped.
At the very end. At the very end.
Hey.
But I'm hoping I make it on.
Cool.
I'll let you guys know when it's actually there. And now I just have fuel for when COVID is gone and I can go to London. I'll just walk on and be like, you said my storm chasing story was boring, so here's another one. But yeah, sorry, there was a side tangent there. Not sure when it will be, but if you guys follow me on Twitter, I will be posting it the second it happens. But back to Who. Let's talk about the most recent seasons, because that's the whole reason we're here, Mr. DJ, and you're fighting words in the comment section about my costume. But yes, let's talk about some of the things. We'll take a positive track. You know, everything's kind of negative in the earth right now, so let's take a more positive note. But what do you think are some areas that they could improve upon in the more recent Doctor Who's? And when we go into the future, what do you want them to see added in? Now, Troy, you just went, so we're going to go back to Mr. DJ.
You really don't want me to answer this question.
Remember, be happy. Put a smile on your face and try.
I'm trying.
What was the question?
Oh, wow.
Basically, what improvements would you like to see in future seasons of Doctor Who to bring it back to some of the more beloved episodes? What do you think are some of the things that are missing right now that they should add back in?
A new showrunner.
Yep.
New writers.
Wow.
Okay.
Tell us what you really feel.
I'm just glad you haven't said replace Jodie, because that would probably break my heart.
That's right up there too.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm going to jump in. I got to jump in and say this real quick. I don't blame Jodie. I don't blame her at all. It's a matter of writing. You can put any actor in the position of playing Doctor Who, whether you're black, white, woman, male, trans. It doesn't matter. It's a matter of how well you write the Doctor Who character. The key thing is for the actor to bring those qualities of their acting skill to bring that doctor to life. The thing is that the only thing is with Jodie is she has to find her legs to be her actual doctor, not taking anything from Tennant, Matt, or anybody else. Come up with her own. Like, I understand within the first couple of episodes, you're still trying to find your legs. The doctor always seems to go through that transition of trying to find
that 3-episode.
Right.
Part.
Yeah.
But then once she does, the thing is there were certain things that make me cringe, not because that she's not a good actress. It's just the writing just got me kind of. There was something I'm going to just say this one point, and then I'm gonna let someone else jump in. There's one point where Graham talks about his cancer, and I'm sorry, but when the doctor turns around and says, "Oh, I'm supposed to say something really supportive and all," and she just said, "Oh, well, let's just act like it never happened," I kind of just like that was kind of a letdown for me because of the fact that the doctor is supposed to be inspiring. He's supposed to inspire his companion to do better and to strive for better. So when I see the doctor doing that, it's just kind of like cringy because, and again, I don't blame Jodie. I blame the writing. I'm not saying that there's got to be a new set of writers. What it needs to be is the writers need to sit down, look at what's been done in the past. Don't try to stress that we have a female doctor. No, we have a new doctor. And just focus on that just being the new doctor, not a banner of, and again, because like you said, it's all about positivity. My thing is, I'm not going to complain about, because everyone knows that there's no such thing as a perfect doctor. Everyone's going to have their gripes about, well, this doctor didn't do this and this doctor didn't do that. But at the end of the day, there's certain qualities of the doctor that always has to be maintained. And if you don't have that and you're lacking in that, you're not going to have a good enough, strong enough story that's going to make fans devote or put in the time to watch Doctor Who. Now, if you have those certain qualities that makes the base of what the Doctor is about, that's going to be the key to bring people in, including with the companions. So that's all I'm going to say on that for right now. Take it away, whoever wants to.
Eric?
The point I'm trying to make. No,
Jeff.
let me finish my point here.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, TJ.
Minister admitted that she had no idea what Doctor Who was when she took the role. And all she did was watch a couple of episodes of Smith and Tennant. And she combined those two together to make what she plays now, which is kind of like a cosplay for the last 2 seasons. And it's just not something that really draws the person in. And yes, I agree with some of the episodes because it's like this past where she let, I can't remember his name, go in to blow up the Cybermen. The Doctor doesn't do that. Look what Tennant did. The Doctor didn't let poor Wilf give his life.
Right.
But Jodie just lets, no, that's not the Doctor.
Okay, and I totally agree with that. But that character at the end came off as a totally different character than when he started that episode. In the beginning of that episode, and I just watched the last episode today. So that character at the beginning came off as human, and I'm doing this, and I'm, and I'm like holding the line, and then to have him come in at the end and give the kind of speech of, I'm the one who sent that cyber stuff back into time, and I did that. It kind of almost sounded like he was part Time Lord or a Time Lord pet or an old companion or something. And she has been known to let her companions take up the slack, or the Doctor has. I mean, Jack goes out there and like, I'm going to do this and hell with you. I mean, that's what Torchwood was pretty much all about. So it is the companion, and I think the writers definitely, I think we need more female writers writing the Doctor if we're going to have a female Doctor, just in the sense that she might have had a better conversation about cancer, and she might have had a better the more here are guys going,
I just say just have good writers. It shouldn't have to be a matter of female or male. It should just be good writers, because then what you're doing is you're segregating and you're categorizing, and that's where the negativity will come into play. Because wait, everybody's trying to get the females and the male. It shouldn't be about that. It should be just about good writers, male or female. And I think that's what we're getting away from. We're getting away from. What we're doing is we're putting people in classes. We should get female writers. We should get male writers. We should get black writers. We should get Latino writers. No, give me a good writer. Period. I just want a good writer to tell the tale of what's going on with the Doctor.
And on that too, you've got when it comes down to the writing, it should be purposeful. They try to have too many messages in the past 2 series, and messages are not a bad thing, but good stories are the ones that leave you walking away going, man, that was interesting, and really thinking about that and contemplating on the message, rather than walking away going, well, damn, they really wanted me to think this, didn't they?
Yeah,
so
exactly. You don't want to walk away feeling like you've been scolded.
Right. I would say dial back on the messages a little bit. Make sure that your messages are kind of more woven and ingrained, like Doctor Who used to do. Doctor Who has always had some kind of message to say. One of the biggest ones is just be nice to people. But I would say that, and then also, I would personally like to see them stop focusing so much on the past. We already had Moffat rewrite the past of Doctor Who. We don't need Chibnall to continue rewriting the past of Doctor Who. I would love to see the past just be the past. I think there is nothing more interesting than a being who just decided the people that I live with are boring. I want to get out and travel and understand this universe, and having his people, her people say, that's not right, and they're in trouble for it. That's why I left. And like, rewriting that is such an issue for me, because now that was a very relatable thing. What they've done now is so non-relatable, and that's where I'm lost. But what was relatable, even just with the Doctor's past, is the Doctor coming in, wanting to help, meeting people, and bettering their lives. That's what they should focus on. And I would like to see more classic alien invasion stories, because I feel like they've dropped off a little bit, and I think they always make for a good fun time. But I think a lot of those things could help. I think just stop trying so hard to make the show somehow relevant or change people's lives. It's already going to do it. It's changed my life. I wouldn't know Eric without this show. You know, I wouldn't know half the people I know today without this show. I wouldn't have had that website for the past, 20 years or so without that show. So I think that's the key thing. I think they just need to focus, like Eric said, on telling good stories and focusing, make the people fun. Don't make them jerks.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point. All of us should be, I think all of us probably agree on this, is that with Doctor Who and sci-fi in general, whether it's Star Trek, Doctor Who, Star Wars, anything, the best of stories are the ones where they don't tell you this is what the right side, this is the wrong side. There's that gray area where you're like, should I be rooting for the Doctor? Like The Wanderers of Mars. That is a fantastic one when it comes to changing a fixed point in time. And like, did he do the right thing? Did he do the wrong thing? They don't tell you. Exactly. You get to make that up for yourself. And that's what drives the fandom, is when you have these things to debate and have panels to debate it on. It gets people talking. And I think with the new Star Trek and with the new Doctor Who, it's more of a, we're going to give you guys talking points and you're going to tell everyone that this is the right way. And that's kind of the new mentality that's starting to crop up in sci-fi. And I'm hoping that they maybe cut that out. But that's just my 2 cents. I'm going to add Troy in, and I'm actually going to sneak off for a sec so that we can have all 6 of you wonderful panelists on. I'll just be in the background, and I'll pop back in, and one of you will randomly go backstage at some time. But anyone else who hasn't spoken up yet, please tell us a little bit.
Well, Eric, you were talking about having good writers write for the actors,
right?
And they can make the actors do well. Case in point, you can just go back in Doctor Who's history. To Colin Baker. He's widely considered as the Doctor that was the poorest from the classic run. He had bad stories, bad writing. Then you look at him at his performances in Big Finish. And for those in the text chat that may not know what Big Finish is, those are audio stories that were written after the classic era ended. And they've continued on as the new series has taken over on TV. Colin Baker is widely considered the best Doctor in the audios. So if you have good writing for the actors, you can get great stories. So, and great Doctor Who. So I completely agree with you there, Eric.
And then like she said, it's the whole idea, like in the areas of gray where you can have a discussion and talk about issues that within the Doctor Who story realm without being force-fed, like Brian said, a lesson being told, instead of being able to organically have a conversation and a discussion about, well, did you think the Doctor was doing this, or do you think he was going this way? But it's you're organically able to have a discussion without saying, well, it's got to be on this side or it's got to be on this side. It's got to be one or the other. Instead of everyone just being able to come up with their own thought process of what they thought, and to be able to say, let's have a discussion about it, like we are right now. We all are having a civil discussion without trying to say, well, you're wrong. Your way of thinking is not that way. And I think the Doctor was, and instead we're having a civil conversation. And that's where the essence of good sci-fi writing, period, should be about. It should be about being able to tell a story and let you try to figure out what the meaning of that story, because there's so many layers that you got to dig deep to figure out what's the meaning of that story.
And I think the important point is that we have come together with more focus, I think, on what we have in common and what we agree on, and we build from there. I think that is the key that I think is oftentimes missing in most debates. I think something that you had said, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think we're great in the fact that we're all here supporting the Doctor, not tearing it down. We're trying not to tear it down, and yes, we're making points about the writers or the companions or the doctors, but we're still a fan base that wants to support, not nitpick.
And that is the key, because there seems to be this idea out in the interwebs that whenever someone is critical of something, it's hate. Oh, it's all hateful, and you just want to see it fail. There comes a point, I think, when you are like, you know what, this is so no longer what I loved. Yeah, I do want to see it fail because it's not even the thing anymore. But that's not what we're coming to this with. We are coming to it with a critical eye and saying, yeah, this writing has been weak. Jodie has not been given any gravitas to work with. You can't fault her acting for it. It's what she was given to work with. I don't really, I think it's kind of a straw man, and nobody here has said this, but I've heard the straw man argument. Well, if you don't like Jodie, you don't like women.
And I think Jodie has the problem with the fact that she is the first, what we are now, I mean, the first female, and if she doesn't do well, we're not going to have more. And I think that's what everybody's thinking, is that we're not going to have another female doctor if Jodie doesn't make it. I understand. That's ridiculous. We can have a child come into this. We could have a trans. We could have, let's get a ginger on the show. So that to me is, it's the writing that's going to make sure that the doctor continues, not the who plays that person.
I'm not sure what just happened here.
Here's an interesting point too. Is we live in opinionated times right now.
Yeah.
Okay, and everybody's got an opinion about everything, and they have a platform to share it. If you think about Doctor Who, the classic series, from 1963 to 1989, 87, 89, fans disagreed. Some didn't like Colin Baker's era. Some didn't like Tom Baker. Some didn't like Peter Davison, whomever. Who did they talk to? Their friends in the schoolyard, at home, whatever. Who do we talk to now? We go to the internet. We throw it out there. You tell the world. You make a video about it. It's so much easier to run into the negative comments and the people who feel hurt and attacked by the negative comments because they feel like they're pointed and directly at you rather than just what they are, somebody's opinion. It doesn't matter. There's somebody who loves Jodie's era through and through. There's somebody who loves Matt's era through and through. And that's great. That's the beautiful thing about Doctor Who, is that every era has a fan who loves it for what it is. It may not speak to every one of us individually, and that's okay. But we have to understand that about other people's opinions. But we should also be allowed to say, hey, this is why this isn't working for me.
And if I could be the voice of history for a moment to speak to something that Peggy had been talking about, Peggy had said, and Peggy, please, if I misinterpret or misrepresent you, please correct me. But you had said something to the effect of, there's an idea that if this era does not do well, it will be blamed on Jodie being the first doctor.
Female doctor.
What did I say?
Just doctor.
Just first.
Oh, whatever. Yeah. That's an important point. Yes. But I would say with a historical bent, there had been talk about there being a female doctor going back to the Peter Davison era. And in fact, in a way, we kind of had our first doctor with the Curse of Fatal Death. Now, admittedly, it was a Red Nose special, but it was still, what got people saying, yeah, wow, that would have been great. That would have been great casting. Will the next doctor be female? And then there's been always talk, every single doctor, will it be female? And I don't think anyone has ever seriously, most people have not had any serious problem with that. The problem has been, okay, is there going to be a good purpose for it? We saw a great buildup to a female doctor.
Missy was great as the
Missy
master.
was phenomenal.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
In fact,
I actually thought she was going to actually show up last season. And I was like, oh,
going back from the female mistress, I suppose, to a male master is just kind of as bad because the writing hasn't been there, in my opinion.
Have you guys read, I'm going to kind of segue here for a second. Have you guys read any of the Doctor Who books, like the ones that are out on the bookshelves at bookstores? There is a great book for Missy. It's a little short stories of the Master as Missy. And it's a phenomenal story. It's the idea of here's the woman. So one of the stories is great is that she goes to London and as the master, she's always had this special chair in this male organized, boys club. And she walks in as Missy and she sits in the chair and the men are just like, and she just gives them the, I'm sorry, I will cut your head off if you don't just let me sit here. I paid for this chair. It's mine. And they kind of go, oh, even past the fact that she's a female, that's the core master. That's the scary guy that we all like really fear. And I think with the Doctor, we haven't gotten to that point yet. And that's where we have that problem. Whereas I'd like to be able to say what Troy said is that he didn't even put female in front of the Doctor. And that's where we want to be in the fandom is the Doctor is the Doctor. I don't care if it's male, female, child, boy, girl, green, blue, whatever. It's the Doctor. And the core essence of what the Doctor is what I think the fans all agree on. This is a guy who goes out, explores. He goes out to, help people. He wants everybody to be kind. Everybody, and one of Eccleston's episodes was great, was everybody's important. That little moment on the corner where you two met is important. That's a memory that everybody needs to hold. And with Jodie's, the writing, if the third season of Jodie can do what I wish it would have started out with was, is the Doctor the sum of its memories, of his memories, or is it the basis of I'm the adventurer, I'm the child, I'm the explorer, I'm out there to help? And we haven't gotten that. So I think if you haven't read the books, go back and read all the books. They're amazing. There's a great episode. There's a great book with just Martha going throughout the whole year where she's trying to get everybody to think about the Doctor, for the episode with the master and the guys, the kids from the future. God, I'm tired.
Here come the drums.
Yes. Well, no, it wasn't the drums. It was the people from the future that came back to the past.
Oh, you're talking about the sphere.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a whole book that goes right before that. And if you go out and buy just Martha going around and telling people, hey, there's this guy that's wonderful and what she does. And it's really, the books are so much addition, just like the radio series for a lot of people and the comic books. Doctor Who just expands the universe so much. And I mean, my daughter had me listen to the Doctor Who meets Sherlock musical thing that you can find on YouTube. If you haven't seen that one where they talk and, hey, Sherlock, come with me. And Sherlock's like, no, come with me. And they have this whole like rap battle type thing where, no, it's
brilliant.
The fandom is out there.
Katie,
I wanted to point out real quick, just because we were talking about how the Doctor could be a he, a she, a transgender, anything. And I wanted to point out and be very grateful for all of you guys, because tonight we've been mentioning, the Doctor referring to him as him or her, and no one's jumped down anyone's throat.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a big thing. Is like most Whovians, we aren't the keyboard warriors in the comments section who are like violently on one end.
I call them keyboard commandos.
I think
right.
I think of the Doctor as the Doctor is the Doctor. I don't care. It's the Doctor can be a female Doctor. I mean, in our own society, we're finally at the point where female Doctor, we finally got to that point in history where we had female doctors, so it wasn't always a male. So in Doctor Who, it's the Doctor is the Doctor. It doesn't need a pronoun. It's the pronoun itself.
But he's the Doctor.
But hold on, because there is a segment of us out there that, and this is male and female, that did not like the Doctor becoming a woman. We felt that if they wanted to have a strong female Time Lord presence, they could have done like they've done with other Doctor Who things and made a spin-off series to follow a new Time Lord that was female. They could have had
an old one like Romana, Susan.
Yeah,
they could have brought Jenny back.
Whatever
I would have loved an episode with Jenny. That to me,
they better bring Jenny back.
No, I think Jenny as the Doctor's child out there in the universe would have been such a good spinoff. I mean, we got the Sarah Jane spinoff. We got the Torchwood spinoff. Why didn't we get a Jenny spinoff? That would have just been...
That's what they need to do with Jodie's third season, is they need to bring back Jenny and just be like, hi, Dad and Mom.
But I will say there was one positive to this Jodie's Doctor thing that I've seen this past season. They actually brought back the Master's Classic weapon.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, right.
Shrinking the people down to kill them.
Right.
That was a Master's Classic weapon from Classic Who. That I did like.
Yeah, the tissue compression eliminator. Although they made it look like a vape, which I didn't appreciate. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to quick interrupt because I want to get Jeff back in, but I don't want to kick anyone out. Is
You
anyone
can kick
willing
me
to
out.
sit back?
Kick me out. That's fine.
Okay,
I have
cool.
to go get some coffee. So
Thank-
go ahead.
Okay, Peggy, we'll add you back in a sec.
That's a good reason. I need coffee.
Yeah. Although it should be tea, honestly, with all
So-
of our Doctor Who stuff. But
Katie, are we
Wow.
now in
She is so
complete
great.
spoiler territory? I mean, is it?
we are in absolute spoiler territory. I'll pop River back up just for
I
anyone
really
who's
just wanted to see
joined
her
the
face
stream.
again, but
I
And
agree.
I have like
but
4 images on my laptop of River with just spoilers scrolled across it.
Right.
This was just my favorite.
I can never go
Let's see if I
tired
can
of River.
actually-
the real reason I ask is because I did want to go ahead and fire the volley, because I think the one
Yeah.
thing that we may disagree on that I think might mix it up a little bit is the biggest issue that we all have. It's not about the doctor's gender. It's not about, anything else, even the writing to some degree. The real problem that I think most fans are having right now is was it the last episode? The complete throwing out of canon.
Yep.
And that is where I think most longtime fans and even fans from the Eccleston era on are really struggling. And I think it's best summed up by the Doctor I'm dressed as, who said, the very powerful and the very stupid have one thing in common. They don't alter their views to fit the facts. They alter the facts to their views, which can be uncomfortable if you happen to be one of the facts that needs altering. And I think all fans have felt like they are the facts that need altering. It's like,
Yeah.
you've been with us for 60 some years, people, but now we don't care about any of this anymore. Now we're doing something new. Bye-bye.
And I think it was a big middle finger to the fans from Chibnall, because he wanted to put it to where he stated it how it was supposed to be.
But you know what?
Moffat did the same
I've
thing
noticed
before
this
him, though.
I've noticed this lately of all like Star Trek, Star Wars. They're like, it's almost like they're trying to rewrite history, and for the fans that grew up. And what I don't understand, this is the one thing I do not understand, is the fact that while you're making these changes, remember, you have to respect the fans that came before. They're the ones that are carrying the torch of why your property, your IP is doing so well. It's been shown, like in Star Wars, because how much they disrespected all the stuff that came before, and they just basically treat it like it was toilet paper, why they're wondering why sales are low, why they're not getting the response like they did back in the 70s, or even the when they did the prequels. At least the prequels had some tint of respectability. The same with Star Trek. Like, I love Star Trek, but again, you're not respecting the fandom. Let me just summarize it like this. Sonic the Hedgehog, when the movie came out and the trailer came out, people were like, oh my God, what the hell are we seeing? Fans spoke up. The director or the people that put it together listened to the fans. They fixed it. They pushed the movie back. They fixed it. What happened? Sonic ended up doing #1 for 3 weeks. Why? And why the movie did so well is because you respected the fans. Now, you're going to have your changes and some things you can't change. But like you said, when you're changing the foundation of what the Doctor is all about, yeah, that is like a middle finger to the fans. And again, while I have no problem with a female doctor, don't tell me, well, because she's female, we're going to change the whole dynamic of what the Doctor's all about. Just like his backstory or her backstory. Again, I have a problem with that. And this seems lately like the major franchises that basically have been around for a long time, that have done well, it's like they're throwing everything out the window. They say, well, we're trying to get a new generation of fans. And it never works. It always backfires. And I don't understand why people are not seeing it for what it is. You know, you can't do it. I mean, if you're not showing any respect to the fans, what do you think? Who do you think is going to be watching these shows? The people that are fans, their kids, their grandkids. Again, maybe it's just me, but that's how I look at it.
I want to say, sorry, Brian, I'm going to pop you backstage real quick because Peggy has some good points. She's been popping them in the comment section. I just wanted to bring her in because we'd been talking about this. We've been colluding before this just to make sure, you know, we were all on the same side sort of thing. But no, Peggy has a really good point. We were talking about this. Go ahead, Peggy.
I think I wrote it out in the debate. I was saying that this show is made to break canons. I mean, we have all the history of different canons being broken. You guys can't hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I think I rewatched the last episode of with the Child of Time today, just so that I could be on top of this. And I think what is interesting is what they're going to be doing. If you haven't seen the episode, it's a lot about memories and the Doctor finding out what parts of her memory are gone. And I think if that's the case, then the season 3 is going to be her going out and trying to find all of those memories again. Again, we really don't need that because the Doctor is the Doctor who it goes back to, do we think that memories are... I wrote this all out.
I love that you wrote it out. That just goes to show how thoughtful our fans are.
Are you only a sum of your memories? And if you don't know all of your memories, does it really matter? I think is what the fans need are going to be learning is that I mean, we don't know what happened to Chris's character, or the Ninth Doctor, between not being the War Doctor and being on the Titanic. We know he was on the Titanic, or didn't go. He stopped people from going on the Titanic. We don't see that, and we don't know what happened to Matt during those 200 years where we thought it was only a couple of months since he hadn't seen Rory and River, and but he was gone for 200 years. So there's so many stories that as the fans we don't see, that canon is constantly being broken by this character.
Yeah,
and
careful. When you say broken, broken.
It's bent. That's true. You're right. It's not bent. It's canon is constantly changing. It's
no. Wait a minute. I could not disagree with you more, and I think it's just your terminology.
Okay.
We are talking about a very intricate tapestry, 60 years of threads, and if you break it, that's cutting a hole in it, okay? Whereas if you weave in a thread that wasn't there before and it fits the picture, that's not breaking anything, that's enriching. So we have to be very careful when we talk about breaking. This history, yes, absolutely. If you lose your memory, okay, and you forget everything about your past, it breaks who you are. All the lessons that you've learned, all the development that you've had, all the relationships you've had. So yes, that absolutely matters. You are effectively a different person if you lose all your memories. What we're not talking about, though, is that we're not talking about what the Doctor remembers. It's not breaking canon if we didn't know some piece of story, but the Doctor did all along. He knew he was the War Doctor. Okay,
that's true.
Just because we didn't know it doesn't mean it wasn't in there. It's just a part of canon we didn't know about yet.
The audience is learning new things, and
The problem is that we have an establishment of where the Time Lords got their regenerative abilities, where time travel came from, who Rassilon was, and Omega. This history exists, and to take and chuck that all out, we're not just saying that the Doctor misremembered it. We're saying that everything is being thrown out. That's breaking canon.
Okay. I was going to say, Jeff, I agree with Jeff. It's not being thrown out. It's being so the Doctor. It's not being thrown out. Everything that we've experienced as audience members has happened. It is still part of the Doctor's memory. what they've done with the children of the Child of Time is stated that she, the master, the younger generation of the group were being fed a lie. That sounds horrible. They were being fed a lie, but that doesn't mean that their memories aren't real. I mean, the master sits there and says, yes, I remember walking down these streets. Yes, I remember learning this. I remember being taught this. That is a remembrance, and it's not that the memory is false. It's just it's not the entire memory that the doctor now believes that they're entitled.
But it is throwing stuff out, because then it's throwing out River sacrificing all of her regenerations to save the doctor. It's throwing out the new cycle that the Time Lords gave the doctor.
It's actually okay. It's not. It's almost like all of those regenerations are being returned to the person that gave them the regenerative ability in the first place. It's not we're sacrificing ourselves. We're returning the gift. We're returning you to being you.
But there's no point of it, because this doctor,
she has infinite regeneration.
Many times
does she though?
Apparently she's the source of all regeneration now. I'll tell you what, if she doesn't heal Graham's cancer now, that's on her. She has the ability.
I do have one weird question, in the sense that, and you brought it up with the Matt getting all of those regenerations, is the person who sat there and said, you're only allowed 12 regenerations. Is that because we wanted to be able to get we didn't want to have a small DNA base, and we wanted to expand our DNA base, and you're only allowed 12 regenerations to create 12 different families? Or was there a reason behind the number 12? I mean,
it does. Yeah, it is important.
How do you genetically stop that?
In the original canon, before this last episode changed everything, a Gallifreyan did not automatically have the ability to regenerate. It was something that was bestowed on Time Lords. Now, Gallifreyan is not Time Lord. Time Lord is something that you acquire by going to the academy and getting a degree in temporal physics and and whatnot, and taking an oath and whatever, and being granted regenerations. And that's been a big part of the master's thing. When he ran out of regenerations, he needed to steal them from the doctor or from somewhere else, or be granted more from the Time Lords. It was something that was bestowed upon you.
And in the 5 Doctors, they explicitly stated that they could give a new full 12 regenerations to a Time Lord, and they were going to do so for the Master. I do want to say something here, though. Canon, I agree. I do feel that they are deviating, they are changing, they are rewriting. I don't think they're the first. I think Moffat certainly did it before them, but it even goes back even further. Patrick Troughton said that he could live forever, barring accidents. But if you have 12 regenerations and you can age out, we know that bodies can die of natural causes. Then, of course, you cannot live forever, barring accidents. John Pertwee said that he was thousands of years old, when just previously he said he was 400 some odd years old. We've always changed. We've always altered things. It's always been there, but certain things do change things so fundamentally that the show just isn't the same anymore. And when you alter that, for instance, saying that there's a doctor before William Hartnell, I think that changes far too much for me. And people can point out Brain of Morbius stating that was their intention. And yes, guess what? That was their intention, but that's not how it went in broadcast. They changed it before broadcast. They did not stick with it. That was what somebody was trying to do, and somebody else said no. But you also have, in my eyes, you just took away the title of the first Doctor from the person who originated this role, and I think that's wrong. I just personally, I think that's really disrespectful, and I find that very sad that they would do that. He was very proud of this role and what he had done with it, and I just think changing it that far, that's just too far for me. We already have 3 explanations in the show for how the Doctor stole the TARDIS and left Gallifrey. That's what's happening with all these rewrites. Everything's changing, nothing's making sense, and that's sad.
I totally, that is, yes, I agree. And what I also found interesting was that they were doing this so I did not know about the being bestowed part. That's actually really cool. But again, I'm not a total old doctor. But what I think was interesting about this new episode was the fact that they kept regenerating as children as she was a child. And so I take it you had to get to a certain age before you were given the regenerative. And do you always regenerate back to that original age, or do you regenerate back to the age that you would have been on the on the next year? How does
in the show
regeneration, that by itself is a crazy thing to me. I mean, to be able to choose Peter is because I liked his face and from Rome, and I chose him as my face.
There was no age for it. You could just regenerate into anything, any age, any form. And with the Doctor, it was always potluck because he was regenerating out of necessity, rather than, as other Time Lords would say, where they regenerated because they wanted to, or their body was getting old. But
it was like Romana. Romana could choose what she wanted to regenerate into, because she took the form in the classic series of a princess.
Yep.
Yeah.
But during her regeneration,
the second Doctor got that choice as well.
During that regeneration period, though, when she could twist her form to make it fit what she wanted, but only during that 24-hour period.
Right.
But there was no such thing back then as going from one gender to another. All the females regenerated into female form. All the males regenerated into male forms.
I would say, however, that there's been a clear indication that it was based, if not on specific choice, as with Romana, there's definitely an influence. We saw it in River Song. I'm choosing a dress size. And we also explored it with Capaldi when they were explaining why he looked like someone who had previously been at a character
you like that face,
previous actor. Why this face? There was something subliminal was going on that shows that. I think that Capaldi's Doctor, I alluded to this earlier, set that up when there was something. When the Master said, "What is the future? All female?" Like, we can only hope. That seemed to be foreshadowing that the next Doctor was going to be female. He was subconsciously making that choice. I wish the writing had been there for them to explore that more. There hasn't been that. Brilliant. Well, why am I female now?
I'm hoping that
they might touch into that.
Well, okay, so when you watch a whole season of Chris, or all of David's 3 seasons, what I thought was interesting was that you get to the end of the first season and you go, "Oh wait, she's Bad Wolf." Go back and rewatch everything again.
Oh, yes.
And the writers had that in their head from before the first episode was out there. And you got that with David. Was here, we're going to have this whole thing, and we're going to bring River back from Matt. And they are out there years in advance of recording these shows. So I'm kind of hoping that, okay, we've had these writers, they're establishing all these new rules. Maybe by season 3, they go, "Oh, all that stuff we did? Go back and rewatch it, because here's the last.
But see,
here's that last bit, and go back and watch the first episode of the first Doctor, and that's why we're going to have this loop."
I love how Peggy, how you give so much credit to the writers. They had it all planned out from the beginning.
Well, wait a minute.
No, I think what they did was they look back and they go, "Okay, we threw in a bunch of Easter eggs and kernels. How can we now weave a tapestry out of that?" That's what they really do.
I don't know. You got to go there. I think they had an inkling what they were doing, because if you go back to the first season with Jodie, they did mention the timeless child right there at the beginning. Then they just kind of forgot about it for a while. It wasn't until the second season with her is when they went full on, and all the cringeworthy stuff. I mean, it's total cringeworthy when she meets up at MI6 and he sits there and says, "Well, I thought the Doctor was always male," and she makes the comment, "I've had an upgrade." That's rather
incredibly insulting.
Yeah,
and that's insulting.
That is insulting, and I think one of the things, and this is going to be a tangent again, I love Jack's character. There's an episode where he sits there in Torchwood and he goes, "Oh, been there, done that. I've had a kid." If we have species out there, and he's not human, obviously, if he's had that upgrade, men don't have, I mean, maybe in the, okay, now we do have that, but the science backing that up is that we never saw the first Doctor's family have kids. Jenny is not a production or a product of two Time Lords or two beings coming together and creating this child. That's a clone of genetics. Or she's a clone of genetics. We don't have River and him having kids. Well, we do, I guess.
Well, but Susan is his grand.
Yeah,
he has a granddaughter.
Yeah, so but you're also right, and
he has said before he has had children. He's a father,
right? And we don't see that. So there are more spin-offs out there that we could. And he's not running into his kids in the out there in the universe in these timelines. Come
the
on.
Sad implication is that they were lost in the time war.
Yeah, because everybody was lost. To his mind, he knew of no one in existence. Only the Master hid from him.
Right.
So at that point, it made sense that nobody was there. The oddity for me, though, is Moffat bringing Gallifrey back only to forget that he brought Gallifrey back. Like, it was brought, and then we just don't do anything with it. Kind of a weird. I do want to say one thing, though.
I like the Cybermen with the Time Lord.
Time can be
decorations.
Well, yeah, and the Time War. The beautiful thing about the Time War is that it can be blamed for so many things, rewriting so much of the show and so on. Matter of fact, I contacted Big Finish at one point during the Paul McGann audios. There's stories that take place during the Time War, and you have his defined box sets, Time War 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then you have these other episodes. And I was like, you know what? I'm one of those categorical fans. I want to know where they fall in line. So because I think of the show very much as you watch, even though it's audio form. If you were watching it on TV, where did these episodes fall in place? When were they broadcast? So I asked Big Finish, where does this story fall in line? Can you answer that for me? I would like to kind of have a good idea for placement. And I was given the answer, well, it's the Time War, so it's all wibbly wobbly. It could happen, or maybe it didn't happen. And I was like, not what I was looking for. I love you guys so much, but you knew what I meant, and that's a cop out. And I don't want to be rude with that, but that was such a cop out.
It is,
but the Time War does work for that. I'm sorry, go on.
No, it does. I won't get off on a tangent, I promise. But one of the things I do on my stream is rewatches of movies on Saturday nights. In fact, I'm trying to get Meteorologist Katie for a Twister rewatch. I hope you're still up for that.
Oh, I am. But I have my weather wall. Like, it's my life.
Like I said, I didn't want to get off on a tangent. We'll talk about that later. But I'm currently doing a stream of what I consider to be good time travel films. There's a lot of bad ones out there, but the best ones are very wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, but you can, as Brian said, follow that thread, even though, it backs up on itself and whatnot, and it follows the rules that it establishes for itself. I keep coming back to this concept of a tapestry. It's elegant. And from a distance, you can look at it and follow the threads, and it makes a beautiful story. Okay. Unfortunately, I see so many bad storylines where they just take and they cut the middle of the tapestry out and they slap in a patch here and they go, whatever, it's time travel, it works. And I'm seeing that a lot with Doctor Who's continuity.
You're going to the Back to the Future. Let's go ahead and go back to the future and change time to a parallel universe thing.
And if that's the rules in your universe that you created, fine. But then be consistent about it.
Yeah.
And if you just start pulling at the threads and unraveling the tapestry, then you have a mess, and you no longer have the beautiful illustration you did before. Now you have something completely different. It is no longer what the fans loved.
I'd like to ask the panel about another big middle finger, I'd say, to the fans. What was the name the curator gave the painting in the 50th anniversary of Gallifrey?
Yeah, that bugged me too, I'll be honest.
No more. And what did we get this season?
Gallifrey fell again.
Yeah.
But yet again, Gallifrey can always stand again because time can also always be rewritten. That's one of the things that we have to remember. But I do agree. It was my first thought. And I also thought, too, the Daleks had an entire time war with the Time Lords, and they caused damage, but they couldn't get rid of Gallifrey. Yeah. The Master just goes back, is a spoiled little brat, and destroys them all. How? Yeah. How the heck did he do that? I just leave Gallifrey alone. Listen to the Eighth Doctor Big Finish plays. Time Lords can work as a storytelling device brilliantly if you let them. Leave it alone. Don't. When the new series came back, and the Doctor was the lonely Time Lord, he was the last of his kind. My heart sank a little bit because I was like, oh, so he's Superman now. And I thought we're just doing Superman. And it worked. It was fine. The Time War was interesting. We got over it. But when they brought it back, I was like, thank God, this is done. All that weight's off his shoulder. He can go out into the universe and just have fun now and do fun things. And then Chibnall was like, hey, you know what would be cool? Let's destroy Gallifrey. That hasn't been done before.
Exactly. So I fired the opening salvo. Okay. And now I want to channel, on Professor Geek's channel, we all talk about the co-host Big Al as being Mr. Sunshine and Lollipops. I want to channel him for a second and be a little bit of a voice of hope here too, because I think Brian was starting to get at it. It is time travel. With good writing, you can always fix the problems. Unlike so many other fandoms that we could have this same debate about, at least with Doctor Who, we're dealing with time travel where you could say, well, something got changed in history and it's been fixed now, or now we're going to go write a story where we fix it. Plus, something that nobody has mentioned, but I've heard many people say before, is that as things are right now, we don't even know for sure if what we saw in that last episode is history. Yeah, could just be a lie, another lie by the Master. One can only hope, but I got to be honest with you, it's very difficult to have that kind of hope because the writers and Chibnall have not earned that level of trust from us
that we had with the original.
I want to put this out there too real quick because it's a theory I had and I want to throw it out there. If Chibnall somehow is doing this, I think it'll be brilliant. When we first meet Ruth, she is basically brainwashed. She think the chameleon arch essentially to believe she's human, this Ruth person, to protect her. Right. And her protector that was with her told her, go to this place, break the glass, and they've got a TARDIS buried there. What if that is phase 2 of the protection? Pretend you're the Doctor, because if you are going to hide somebody, who is better to hide that person as than the Doctor? Because any planet they travel to, anything they do in the universe, everybody knows the Doctor's out there. Which one is it through which point in time on which planet?
I think it's so sweet. You give so much credit to these writers.
Absolutely. But I think it's a great way to solve the issue. I think
it is.
Because I think it's a much more interesting story.
Fan theories are better than what we're getting from
I think the chameleon arc as a tool that is now in the fandom is such an amazing tool because you're right. We can sit there and say there could be all these Time Lords out there.
Don't open it. At least not during the stream.
Yeah, not right now. We could have all these potential Gallifreyans out there hid in a way that we don't know who've gone through their life and just handed it off or something. But I do kind of like the idea that the Christmas episode with David where he goes to London and he runs into a guy who says he's the Doctor and he's listening to him going, do I sound like that? Am I really like that?
Yeah.
And you sit there and you watch that episode going, well, how many of you out there thought, oh, well, he is one of the Doctors. He's just a regeneration. Then remember. And then you find out that that's not true. And you're like, oh, but that would have been so cool if it was.
Yeah.
How awesome would it be if what Peggy just suggested was the case with when the first Doctor left Susan in the future during the Earth Dalek War, if we didn't see it on screen, but he gave her a fob or something, chameleon arched her so that she would forget her time with the Doctor, so she could have a normal life.
Well, that's a great point. But
wouldn't that be awesome?
But you have all these companions that do know who the Doctor is, and the Sarah Jane episode where she thought the doctor had died, and Matt actually gets to appear with her. And I mean, Sarah Jane got to have all the doctors. I mean, she maybe missed 4, right? There's like 4 out there she never got to deal with. But to have him sit there and go, I always come in and visit my companions. I watched her go down the Amazon River. I watched you adopt the child. I saw you. I kept hands off. It's like a father protecting his children by not being around them. I think if there are Time Lords out there that we don't know about, hopefully they're benevolent. Hopefully they haven't lost their minds. I think the problem with the Master is that he has lost his mind. But if you go back to Chris is the war doctor, and David is the love doctor, and Matt's the family doctor, and Peter is the slowly going crazy doctor, and Jody is the, okay, guys, let's just think this through again and let's start again, doctor. The doctor is the doctor as long as they're adventurous, as long as they're being kind, as long as they're not letting people sacrifice themselves for themselves, which goes back to your point of letting that guy hit the button at the end. That can be changed. Who says she's not going to come in at the last minute and change that? And she actually got him out before he hit the button, or he was, I don't know. The doctor.
Can I just say, you just called Matt Smith the family doctor, and now I'm picturing him being someone's medical doctor, and I just think it's hilarious.
But you understand why I say the family doctor, right?
Yeah.
So Jody's sitting there and saying, oh, these guys are my fam. I'm sorry, I don't have that connection. These are not family yet.
I don't see them as her family, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Especially
River
not the way she reacts to the whole cancer story.
Yeah, River and Donna and Martha, and those are still family. Those are still cousins.
Oh, nice.
Those are still odd nieces and nephews that are out there. Rory and Mickey and all of those guys. That's family. Mm-hmm. These 3 guys. I liked Graham's conversation with Trish or Tosh about Raj, or what is her name? I can't even remember their names. Yasmin. That conversation that he had where you're even better than the doctor, that speech that he gives her, that's great. And then to have her just sit there and go, yeah, you're nice too. That's not family. And to be the writer that says, oh, I'm from Yorkshire and that's just how we talk. That's a love letter. Bullshit. I'm sorry. That's not family. Sarah Jane would have given you this amazing speech back, and Mickey even would have been like, bro, that's awesome. Let's bro hug. To sit there and go, yeah, that's great. Thanks so much. You're cool too. What? That's not family. Even if
wanted to take a.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Peggy. Go finish your thought.
No, I was going to say we are totally over your time limit, and I know that DJ has a program and we have birthday parties to announce and things like that. So
this is fantastic. I want to bring PJ back in for a second, because when we were talking about this debate, it started with myself and DJ, and I'm so grateful for all you guys joining the channel, but I want to get that one good debate question between the 2 of us, and I think PJ has a great question. So I'll keep as many of you guys rotating in as possible, but we're going to add PJ in for a sec, and then we're all going to do a very fun end to the stream. So let's add in PJ here. Welcome back, Orville Nation. If it'll actually work, please. It's been going so well. Please don't crash. There we go. Okay.
Well, I just want to congratulate Katie on her first stream. Congratulations, it's going really well.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I
hope everyone appreciated it.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's been a great debate, guys. So listen, I like Katie said, and can we get DJ back on screen or not? Is that not going to happen?
DJ's there.
DJ just has the option pulled.
I like seeing myself on camera.
I wanted to see. There you go.
Oh, you look so good.
I wanted to see you. Okay.
The effort into a cosplay. You look fantastic. Like, we believe in you.
I'm just glad my cameras
are
broken.
Go.
So the rest of the stream is going to be for Katie and DJ, and I have a couple of questions for you guys. And I'm going to ask you to both say positive and negative things for each question. So I want you to really express how you feel, and I also want you to be diplomatic with the other person. So first question goes to DJ. Well, so this is to both of you. I'm asking DJ first. DJ, what was both positive and negative of the transition between Capaldi, from Capaldi to Whitaker? And let me just say, from my point of view, Capaldi was one of my favorite doctors. So for me, like, I felt a shock factor when this happened. So I want DJ to express how he feels, and I also want you, DJ, to pick out something positive of the transition.
The positive part was the big epic speech Capaldi gave before he regenerated. I love that speech. It gave nodbacks to previous doctors. It's hard because,
I can see you're struggling to find the positives.
I'm in that part of the fan group that didn't want to see this happen. That's the tough part.
Yeah, see, like DJ and I feel like there's been a cataclysmic event here in some. Go ahead, DJ.
We've seen all these fandoms of all these sci-fi shows that we've had, and they've got to change so much thinking that they need to do it for a new generation of watch. No, they don't have to do that. They just have to give us some good stories. They don't have to beat us over the head with their agendas that they want to push. Just give us some stories, because we come to watch these things to get away from the world, to have a little time just to chill and relax. And they're not doing it for us anymore. They're just beating us over and over and over.
Eric is definitely on your side right now.
I have been saying that from the jump. No political agenda. Just tell me a good story. No political agenda. None. Like Brian said earlier, don't try to give me a lesson. Tell me a story, and then let me learn from the lesson within the story that you wrote. Like you said, it's they're trying so hard to be. Well, we want you to think like this because everybody needs to think like this. And if you don't think like that, then there's something wrong with you. You don't like this, then there's something wrong with you. You don't like that in a sci-fi show. That means you're not productive. You're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem. No, technically you are a part of the problem because you're bringing all this chaos within something that is supposed to be able to take your mind away from the everyday problems that go on around us. And that's what the bottom line. And that's what DJ is saying. It's something that is important. One of the reasons why myself and Brian, why we do our fan films, because we get to tell our stories without any kind of political ideology, any agenda, any kind of, yes, we're going to make the world a productive place because we're going to tell our stories in a way that it's going to be politically correct. No, we just want to tell stories and let you come up with your own ideas of what you thought the story was about. So yes, 100% behind DJ on that. Totally.
Classic Who did it so smartly. They would give you something to think about, but they didn't beat you over the head with it. It was at the end of the episode, you would sit there and think it over yourself.
Hell, there's been times when I would watch an episode of Doctor Who when Tennant's era and even Matt's era, and I would call up Brian, what do you think? And we would get into the discussion about it and talk about it and what we thought, but it was never a thing where, well, I felt that the political structure, because of what they were saying, what's going on today, and it was just, we were discussing about, wow, where do you think that this is going to go? Well, it could be, and we would get into the whole depth of the Doctor Who lore, and it wasn't about anything that was going on within the world today. It might have been under a lot of layers, but it was still, the topic was the story. You know.
Let me ask. I totally agree, Eric. Let me ask DJ a follow-up question before I move on to Katie. Let's say we had to include Jodie Whittaker. How would you have brought Jodie Whittaker in without making her the Doctor, DJ?
Wow, that's good.
Basically, I would have brought her in as a new companion, but from Gallifrey, like a trainee. He could have took her under his wing, trained her on what he did, and they could have went with a spinoff from there, and she could have been doing the same thing he does in her own show.
Exactly. She could have had her own show.
I don't think that would work though.
Why not? It
Yeah.
was
Because you're splitting the show up into two shows. I don't think you could have Doctor Who and a Doctor Who spin-off showing a character from the first show doing the exact same thing as what the first one's doing.
worked for Torchwood.
Torchwood's
I
different.
would totally watch it on a spin-off.
Torchwood was basically the same thing except it was Earth-based.
Let me
You
just say,
I-
our friend actress Lindsay Wagner, The Bionic Woman, $6 Million Man, 2 different shows.
Yeah. I want to
Same
point out
premise,
what Peggy put it in the private chat because she's backstage right now. But she brought up a point that I thought of too. We are on the same wavelength, I swear. What if you could bring her back, Jodie, in as one of Jenny's regenerations? And so she's both
I like
part
that.
Time Lord and also a companion, and they could travel together. Like, how brilliant would it? Oh, darn it! Now there's going to have to be a fan fiction written.
He points out in the private chat too. Sarah
Would you
Jane.
say that the writers are not watching us right now and writing down notes while we're talking?
Happened before.
was directed towards kids, where Doctor Who is a family show. Torchwood was an adult show. And PJ, do you think the Bionic Woman and the $6 Million Man would work today at a modern audience? I don't think it would. It could back in the 70s when those two shows were running. But today, I don't think you would get an audience that has so many choices to watch, different shows, to watch two very similar shows at the same time.
Yeah, Law and Order would never work today. Oh, wait.
Actually,
Okay,
you could
explain
do it.
this.
It's just the way you would write it and how you. I mean, I've seen other shows have their spinoffs. I mean, look, you got all these SUV shows, Law and Order shows, spinoffs, and everything. You got Sons of Anarchy and the Mayans. So it can be done. It depends on how you write it to fit the modern day of what's going on. I mean, they're doing it with Jack Ryan, and I mean, again, it's a matter of how you do it. I've seen shows do spinoffs of spinoffs of spinoffs, and so it can be done as all a matter of how you write it.
It's got to be distinctively different, though.
Okay, let me get us back on track now. I want to ask Katie. Katie, the transition from Capaldi to Whitaker, positive and negative things about it.
I think the thing. So I think one of the negatives was how it wasn't even one of the negatives wasn't the show. It was the people who were making the show and the people who are watching the show, because it made such a large deal of she's gonna be a woman. This is so advanced. This is a woman thing. But it's like, I'm just waiting for the day when that's not something that they stress as like the main thing for bringing in a character.
Yes.
Like, give her something more to enter in on rather than, hi, I'm a girl and I have long hair. Haha. Like, give her some sort of character trait other than just being female. And I think that was one of the things that really a lot of people didn't like. And they did, in my opinion, a poor job of was they just focused on that. And when you just focus on, oh, hey, she's a female. Exactly. Like, she's a female. She's a feminist. It's all this stuff. It's like, but okay, she can be that, but tell us more. Like, in modern society, that shouldn't be your main, like, ta-da thing. Like, yes, there are women.
And they doubled down on it. They doubled down on it with this last episode saying, ha ha, the Doctor started out as a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't enough that we have now regenerated into a woman. The original was now a little girl. So, haha. Yeah, well, I don't really have a problem with that so much as the fact that it's anybody before William Hartnell's Doctor. You've changed.
I feel like if you could put any character, like any person, you could have a trans person, you could have an Asian person, you could have someone from Alaska, for all we know. Like, you put them in front of the first Doctor, you're going to have public outrage and outcry from that. Like, I feel like people are making more of a deal of the whole gender and gender identity and race and stuff. Just just let it be and focus on the character, and then select an actor or an actress who you believe can play the role, and don't stress so much about how you're going to be so forward thinking and it's going to be a female doctor or it's going to be a trans doctor. Like, find the right actor. Like with Tennant, with David Tennant. I mean, he is what every one of us wants to be, I think. Like, you watch Doctor Who, you want to be the Doctor. And it's just, I'm just tired of it being forced. But one thing that they did good, though, I must agree, is Peter Capaldi's speech.
Absolutely. Now, we've talked about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about our favorite doctors and so on and so forth. And sometimes the doctor, the actor might be great, but doesn't have the material to work with. I'd like to focus for a second a little bit more on Capaldi. I thought he was a fabulous doctor.
Yeah,
he really had a great deal of potential. I think sometimes he didn't have the best stuff to work with.
Yeah.
And I think the best doctors in recent years, when I look at Tennant, when I look at Capaldi, these are not only actors, but fans as well. These were people that had the credentials, they had the chops, they were fans way back when as kids, and now they got their dream job. When an actor comes in, and okay, I know you're gonna let's not talk about the doctor, let's talk about playing a doctor in a medical drama. Obviously, you're an actor, you don't have medical training, but what do? You spend a lot of time training and learning, and so that you can say the words correctly and that you don't look stupid and you can be believable as a doctor. To hear someone say, I'm taking over this role, but I've never seen an episode of Doctor Who and I'm just going to take it from here and make it my own. That's not what actors do. Actors put in the time to do the research. Just saying.
I'm going to be the person who starts the opposite end of that, because I actually think it's an interesting dynamic. It could have gone either way. It could have gone like, oh, wow, it's a fresh new take, or it's oh, boy, you might want to have gone back and binge watched. But I think with season 3, I really hope, like, Jodie does have the spirit, I think, of the Doctor. She is happy and bubbly and just an adventurer. Like, if you look at her and like behind the scenes stuff, like her interviews and everything, she has the traits of the Doctor. I think she just needs to get that oomph of, okay, I'm no longer just a female. Put me in. And like, she can express herself. Plus now she's had experience with Doctor Who. She knows more about the lore. I feel like that's going to help her build her own character.
Let me on that point, Katie, let me ask my next question to you and DJ. DJ, notable differences between Whittaker's first season and second season?
None.
No differences?
Still cosplaying Tennant and Smith. I really don't see much of a difference.
Okay. No difference in the writing?
Writing's even worse.
Okay. Katie, what about you?
See, when I just look at it purely at like Jodie and the Doctor instead of just the writing, I think the Doctor has grown a bit. Like, you have to look closely, but you can see the changes. And I just think they're still so caught up on the fact that we're kind of changing it and reinventing it, new showrunner, new all that. I think it's kind of slowing down the progression that you would have seen, like what you saw with David Tennant in the 10th Doctor, and how his character is like going through and getting all these new experiences and stuff. Like with the 13th Doctor right now, it kind of feels a little stagnant, but I'm seeing the progress. And I'm waiting for the 3rd season, because I think that's when it's really going to come to fruition.
It didn't take Tennant 2 seasons though.
You're
Good
being
point, but it's David Tennant.
You're being too optimistic, because I
have you met me?
That's true. Good point.
Look at the ratings, though. The ratings are tanking on this.
Well, and I think part of that, the reason
doesn't matter. They
part
don't
of
care.
the reason for that is because of the online presence. I think because a lot of people who haven't met, like, the people who haven't watched 2 and are like just watching it for the first time. Of course, you're going to get like, oh, this is horrible, tuning out. You're going to get classic people who are like, oh, this is horrible, tuning out. But I think if you have the core people who are sticking with it, like the diehard Whovians, who are just waiting for, okay, this doctor won't last forever. Let's see what happens next. Let's see what happens next. I think those are the people who are going to carry on the show, even through poor ratings.
I've seen hardcore Whovians see what this last episode was, and they're all saying, no, it's done. Yep. We're out of here.
Yep.
She started off at about 11 million viewers, her first episode. Now it's under 5.
Yeah. Well, and I think another thing, because there's a big topic, a big point of debate, is that would they cancel Doctor Who? And I don't know. I don't think they ever would.
Katie,
don't say never.
Yeah.
Katie, let me just say, if people really are checking out, if a good portion are checking out, how would you want them to evolve so people wouldn't check out from where they are right now? Oh,
that's a good question. I think what I want them to do is get back to the more thoughtful. We've been preaching about the storytelling practically, but I want them to get more into the stories where you have to think, and it's like a puzzle where you want to go back and you rewatch it 2 or 3 times so that you get the whole story, and it includes more timey-wimey and just that, along with more relatable companions. Like, you have to have interesting companions with interesting dynamics. Like, you go from Martha, the girl who walked across the earth, the one who's actually a doctor, to you have Donna, who's a temp. And she just, the relatable positions, relatable people, relatable situations. And I think with the whole cancer arc that they brought in, it will become a little bit more relatable for people. And with when we were talking about the memory loss and stuff, my grandfather had Alzheimer's. So for me, there's a whole nother level thrown into the how is your essence changed when you don't have your memory. And so I think it's drawing me in more, but I think they just need to sprinkle in a little bit more of reality and a little less of the preachiness and let people think for their own while making them think.
DJ,
that's a lot to digest.
Let me ask you, DJ, is there any way in your mind from you as a fan, from your position, is there any way for them to fix keeping Whittaker, to fix this?
They'd still have to fire Chibnall, get a decent showrunner in there, get some decent writers, and explain this whole garbage away that it was some kind of a ploy from the master rewriting this entire stuff.
Or it was all in the master's head, and we were all seeing through what the master saw, and it was all a big dream for the doctor. And the doctor actually woke up in the TARDIS realizing that, oh, it was all a dream. I was going what the master was thinking, or something along the lines like that.
The Dream Lord came back.
Yeah, something like that. You know, and everybody, you know what? And I got a feeling that everybody would forgive that and move on.
I mean, I want the Valyard to return.
I see the little points about bring Captain Jack. I felt that whole part with Captain Jack this season was just an add-on. They filmed halfway through the season, seeing how bad it was. So let's just add this little part to try to get the fans to come back.
I think there's something broader.
If they can get John Barrowman to come back.
I think they're bringing him back next season because they're so desperate now. They know they're tanking, and they're trying to draw from past Doctor Who now. They'll bring Tennant in next season too at some point. They'll bring him in to try to
really freaking hope so.
They're gonna draw on these points because they have nothing what they're doing it now. So they need all this past to come in and rescue them.
Well, 2 things about the ratings. I think you had such great ratings to start with Whittaker because there was such a hype. Oh, we got a female doctor now. Let's see how she does. So everybody flocked to the show and see how good it was or how poor it was, whichever. And then it kind of went down. It declined, as all Doctor Who series do. The other thing about it is they moved it to Sundays. I think Sundays are a terrible day for Doctor Who. It should go back to Saturday. I think you get better ratings on Saturday. Move it.
No, because they include 7 days. They include 7 days tallying up all those ratings. True. They got 7 days that they're drawing on. Anybody could watch it during that period. And it's still not, it's below what Capaldi was in his last.
I still think it would do better on Saturday.
Doesn't matter. Everybody's DVRing things.
I think you get more live viewers on Saturday.
It still doesn't matter because
I think it would. I think it would.
He's right. It would matter because what happens is when you have more people watching it live. Wait a minute. Give me a second. When you have a group of people watching it live and then putting out their opinions, now the people that haven't seen it are already flavored going into it. So I think there is something to be said for that.
And I think
Brian just put in our private. Well, Brian just put in our private, let's see, Brian and Peggy, I'm going to swing them in. I'm going to rotate them in because they have a couple of things to say. Does anyone mind sitting on the bench?
No, I can sit on the bench. Let Brian come in.
Okay, cool.
She's going to get rid of us.
Yeah. There, and then I'm going to bring back Peggy real quick because y'all have been chatting in the private chat. I clicked on it. I was like, oh boy, come back.
Brian's doing a costume change every time you swap out. So I want to see you start rotating him more.
What now?
That's right.
Yeah, no. So what I was saying was the show, honestly, I have to disagree that the show would get better ratings on a Saturday with the current writing team and the way things are, because the intent behind moving the show to Sunday was because the time slot they put it on Sunday, there was nothing opposite Doctor Who that viewers would flock to. On Saturday, there was Strictly Come Dancing, and they were losing a lot of viewers to Strictly Come Dancing. So Doctor Who was struggling on any other kind of day of the week. The attempt to put it on Sunday was to try and bring up those ratings. And it worked to some degree, and then it didn't because, unfortunately, as we've noted, the writing is kind of knocking things down a bit. But yeah, that was what I wanted to put in there. That was a big kind of step from the BBC. The BBC also had a huge failing, in my opinion, between series 11 and 12. And what they did was they said, okay, Chris Chibnall, you can have a female doctor. Chris Chibnall, you can have female writers, female directors. We're going to get female staff. As a matter of fact, we're going to get rid of all the artists that work on the show and hire female artists. This is one of the things they did. Hold on. I'm not done. This is true because my buddy was an artist on the show and he got dropped when Jodie came in because they wanted female artists. But the BBC said, look, we're going to make this swing. And it wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They were trying to be all inclusive, all positive. Let's do this, let's do that. But the one thing the BBC failed was saying, great, everything all inclusive, everything all female, but let's not greenlight a second series for Jodie yet. Let's see how this goes. And then fans were in outrage, and we had a year to wait before we actually got that series that they finally went, shoot, you know what? Let's do this thing. The BBC dropped the ball because they legitimately, rather than just greenlighting like they have been doing all along, they said, let's wait and see how this female doctor goes. Even though they went and they made all the right steps that they felt were right anyway, like, let's do everything the way Chibnall's saying. Let's bring in a female doctor, female writers, female this, that, and the other. But let's wait. It was a bad move.
My sad thing is that why does inclusive have to mean only one or the other? Why get rid of all of these artists with people? I mean,
100% agree.
Inclusive means inclusive people. It doesn't mean let's get rid of, let's exclude. Exactly. And you're right.
I'm loving it.
But the BBC, sorry, Katie. But the BBC can now sit there and say, we bought in all-female staff. They dropped the ball. Let's go back and do it again with a new group, new guys. Let's bring back the guys. And that's going to be the failing of the
point. You sort of made that point before, and I didn't get it before. But when you put it that way, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the important thing is, you want to have people who have quality, forget any sort of your gender or your race or anything. Forget your species, for goodness sake. Whatever. As long as you can write a good story, bring yourself on.
And this is a family show. I work a
Look
convention.
at everyone.
I worked a convention where it was a bunch of I got brought in because I had kids, and none of the people who were running this convention had kids. And they were like, oh, we need a mom on the board. And once they had the mom, they were like, oh, wait, we never thought of that. And I think that's where the writers and the producers and the people at BBC are going, oh, we've never had a female, blah, blah, blah. We're bringing them inclusive. We're getting their points of view. But I didn't exclude the guys. I just sat there and said, hey, guys, this is my idea. What do you think? It should be a give and take situation. It should not be one or the other. And to go back and bring in Eric's comment of, it's the writers, man. Give us the story. We don't care. I can read one of those books from the shelves that I mentioned earlier, and I can do it as the 13th Doctor. I could do it as the 12th Doctor. It doesn't, to me, it's when they write it as the Doctor did this. They don't sit there and say, she went here, he went there. The Doctor did this.
The Doctor.
The Doctor. That's the pronoun. That's the pronoun.
Well, it's funny, looking at the title of the video, the Doctor Who debate, we've agreed on more things than not, and I was not expecting that. But I think maybe we could get the whole gang back together sometime, and let's just write an episode.
I would so be down on that. That'd be great.
Yeah?
I actually want to do a writer's room. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Plan that. We'll do a Doctor Who writer's room with the same cast and bring you guys back. But PJ, do you have any other questions?
Well, I want to add my final point. It's not so much a question as a point. I do want to share with all of you and something that was very disturbing that Katie and I witnessed. Maybe she doesn't remember. It was about 2 months ago. So the BBC Online had retweeted your Chicago Comic-Con picture, I think it was. And somebody commented, but the Doctor is a man. And do you remember what happened? Do you remember
Lord, yes.
And you said, should we tell him? But what was so disturbing about this was the following. You know what happened, right, Katie?
Oh, yeah. Not verbatim. Do you have it verbatim?
Well, not verbatim, but they blocked this person. And I think that, from my point of view, I think that is unnecessary censorship, because it was not a mean comment. He was just voicing his opinion that the Doctor's a man. What did you think about that, Katie? About him being blocked?
He shouldn't have been blocked.
Being blocked, like, don't block someone, because you're just shutting out other people's views. And I think that's kind of how we've gotten to the point we are in the world. Is if you don't like something, you shut them out. Like, I mean, you could tell me I'm the worst meteorologist in the world and my forecast busts every day and I look like a talking gopher. I would not care. I would listen to that, and then I would go and listen to people who said that, okay, you were off by 2 degrees. You're still my favorite. Like, I listen to people who are negative. I listen to people who are positive. I don't think necessarily.
What's disturbing to me, Kate, about this? What's disturbing to me is that this is state-sponsored BBC Twitter.
Yeah.
This is what's disturbing to me. It's like that's like censorship.
Again, it goes back to but the neat thing about this type of situation is that it's an inclusive thing, not an exclusive. Let's go back to that point. Yep. And to sit there and have a guy go, but the Doctor is a guy. Yes, up until this time frame, he has been a guy. And to discuss that and sit there and say, well, yes, but what do you think about the new girl? Or, well, what about this part? And to engage in a rational, normal conversation without having
a conversation.
In context, you don't even know if he was, like you said, should we tell him? Maybe he was not even aware.
Maybe he's only never seen one season. Yeah. And that's ridiculous. You don't know their
story. So at least have a debate. Like, at least let the debate get going. If it gets like nasty and disgusting and you start to hear people say these horrible things, like
if it becomes misogynistic, yes,
if you start to become misogynistic and all this stuff, then of course I understand it. But a comment like that, you don't know where it's coming from. Just let it be, guys. Let it be.
It could have been my mother watched like one season of Doctor Who, and I told her that we were getting a girl. She's like, but she said that, but isn't the Doctor a guy? And she didn't ask, like, that's wrong. She's like, oh, but isn't he a guy? And then I was like, oh no, they regenerate. Well, what's regeneration?
Yeah.
And then you have that. That's a conversation. That's getting the generations involved. That's getting the kids who are only seeing the female Doctor going, oh, we have generations now who are going to sit there going, oh, the Doctor's a female. But he was, the Doctor was at one time male. Oh no, that never. Oh, let's go back and treat. Let's change. Let's teach. It's inclusive, not exclusive. And I'm going And I think we're at 4:20. We've been on this for almost 2.5 hours, guys.
I told you this was going to happen.
I know you did, Troy, but somebody said they had to go somewhere, so
I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm just saying I predicted this.
I just wanted to remind everybody that that DJ in about an hour is going to be on his channel for his birthday stream, and I think
Actually, 40 minutes.
30 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say it's less than we've got
doesn't
close
have that
to
much
time.
time to get ready.
So I think we just
5 minutes to get ready.
we just wanted to all wish you a happy birthday, DJ.
Happy birthday, DJ.
But no
Indeed.
singing.
Happy birthday.
No singing.
No singing. Okay, no singing.
Let's see. Wait.
Because he knows I can't sing.
I think Kitty dropped off.
She had frozen there for a minute. I knew that was going to happen.
You guys had a great debate. Thank you for everybody joining us, and Eric and Jeff and
there you go. There's a birthday song for you, DJ. Birthday song.
Just don't play it too long. The BBC will know.
Oh, that's right.
Don't play it too long. Yeah,
it's on the Spotify. Spotify
Yeah,
will get me, but
BBC
there you go.
are a stickler for that sort of thing. They work on their channel for that.
Good point. So,
Troy,
but I only did a little bit. I talked over it. So
let me say it was an honor to connect Peggy finally, and it was an honor to have Troy on and to connect because we haven't connected Troy and Brian. It was an honor to meet you, and thanks
Great
so
to meet
much.
all of you.
it
Is
was
any
so
final?
neat to meet all of you. Thank you so much for letting me ramble.
And let me just say one thing. I think we should have a part 2 to this on
I'd be up for
DJ's channel if he's in agreement to that.
Sure. I don't mind.
I think there should be a part 2. It felt short to me, but anyway, that's up to DJ.
I don't mind. I'll do it.
Okay.
Tell me the time and the day.
Today
It's not like
18 minutes from now.
You're back.
Welcome back.
I kid you not. A car just hit the internet router outside my apartment.
Wow.
Really?
How did you get back on then?
I have a hotspot on a 10% charge. So
okay.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that.
Right.
Panasonic
wrap it up.
Yeah, let's do the 2-parter like another day because that's not going to help with poor Katie.
So let's finish this off on a big note. The whole reason we chose today was because DJ, it's your birthday. So we're going to bring in people. I'm going to rotate us out so everyone gets their voice in.
Yep.
But we're going to sing happy birthday.
DJ.
People in the chat, type happy birthday. Let's show some love. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday.
I'm sure. We got to start over that. Yeah.
Putting the master back up. You're making me mad. Got the master up.
I
Okay.
put on
Okay.
the song.
Ready? Yes. Which would you like, DJ? You can choose happy birthday, or we could hum the Doctor Who theme.
Oh,
Do we
that
get
would be
Go
fun.
ahead and hum the Doctor Who theme.
Hum the
That'll
Doctor
make
Who
it
theme?
We
better.
get in trouble for humming it.
Probably
No, you
not
can
the
hum
way
it.
we're going to do it.
All right, but now we have to choose which season. So
Dude,
what's your
it's
favorite
not
thing to do?
It's not going to
It's
be
not
that
good, I'm ready
nuanced,
to
Katie.
exterminate.
All right, so we'll just start.
Exterminate.
We'll start with a do and we'll go from there. Ready? Everyone
Let's
ready?
do it.
1, 2, 3.
Ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum, bum-ba-dum, ba-ba-da-bum, 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 bum-bum, ba-ba-da-bum, ba-ba-da-bum. Bum, bum,
For anyone tuning in at this exact point, they're probably thinking, what are they on?
That's how we end all our debates now. We just sing it through.
Well,
Wait.
happy birthday, DJ. Thank you to everyone for coming on. Thank you, PJ and Orville Nation, literally for everything, because this wouldn't have been possible without you. And thank you for everyone in the comments. Like I said, we'll probably be back and we'll write an episode of our own since everyone seemed in on that idea. Love you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks for making this my first stream so successful. Love you all. And
Bye, Katie.
have fun exploring space and time.
Allons-y.
Alonzi.
Elsie.
Geronimo.